Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Ann Lythgoe, a Dominican Sister of Peace, and I'm here today at the invitation of the Dominican Sisters Conference. This presentation is an update to a similar presentation that I made in June of last year, describing the emerging movements of Dominican congregations in the U.S. Of course, you know the Dominican Sisters Conference, the DSC, is the networking organization for 19 Dominican congregations in the United States. And the mission of the DSC is about building relationships among sisters and associates in our common mission to preach the gospel of Jesus, standing as a clear voice for truth, justice, and peace. We will celebrate the 90th anniversary of the DSC in October at Encuentro. The DSC has been an evolving and transformative companion to U.S. Dominican congregations with tremendous shared history, pivotal moments of change, and bridges we have crossed together. So we have lots to recall and to rejoice in come October. Our purpose today is to offer a preparation for Encuentro to those who are attending, that they're up to speed about some important developments among U.S. congregations, and to keep everyone informed whether you are attending the Encuentro or not. In our last video, we asked some sobering questions, and they remain at the forefront of our thinking. What happens when there are no sisters qualified and available for leadership in your congregation in the near future? What happens when there are not enough sisters in your congregation to hold a general chapter? And most importantly, how can we dynamically maintain Dominican life and mission for all of our members? Of course, these questions touch each of you personally and your congregation to one degree of urgency or another. So today, we are sharing with you two structures that may help support congregations who are getting closer to not having the leadership they need, or getting closer to not having enough sisters to hold chapter. And there are many ways that congregations can support one another through shared healthcare services, financial management, and shared space, just to name a few. Shared governance structures are a way to support each other and relate to each other across congregations. Now, there are several parts that we will offer today, so here is an overview of our material. We will revisit the map of the DSC congregations and define some important terms. We'll describe the working concept of shared governance called Siena Federation. This is being developed by congregations who make up the Dominican Governance Collaborative, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. We'll also describe a new canonically approved structure for 5 congregations in the East, the Dominican Sisters Association, and I'll tell you who they are in a minute. And they'll also give you an update on the Futuring Cohort, that's the members who are under 70, then a brief word about the CDN, the Collaborative Dominican Novitiate, and then some final thoughts. Most importantly, you will hear from some of the sisters who are intimately involved in these developments. We will hear about what they see as the gains and challenges of new shared governance models. All this is preparation for the DSC Encuentro taking place October 9 to 12 in St. Louis. So please be sure to keep that meeting in mind as you take in all that you will hear during this presentation. If you're planning to attend Encuentro, be sure to take notes because this will be important data for you for conversations at the meeting. Of course, everyone is encouraged to understand and appreciate the significance of these movements for your own future, whether you are attending the Encuentro or not. So before we get into the heart of this presentation, let me offer some quick context for why new models are important. And I think you will notice the common threads that connect each of us to each other between the two models. But first, what congregations are we talking about and where are they in a process of conversation? So please look at this chart. This may seem familiar. We used this in the last video. So look there at the left-hand column. Adrian, Grand Rapids, Houston, Mission San Jose, Peace, Racine, San Rafael, Cincinnati, and Springfield. These are all Dominican Alliance congregations, And the DGC, the Dominican Governance Collaborative, is an offspring of the Alliance. Recently, the congregations in the West, San Rafael and Mission San Jose, joined the Alliance and are engaged in the shared governance model work of the DGC. Tacoma also joined the Alliance, and we're happy to have the three of them as part of it. But Tacoma is already in a commissary relationship now with the Sisters in Providence, so they are not active in the DGC. In a few minutes, Corinne Sanders and Donna Pollard from the DGC will join us to talk more about this experience. Please notice the middle column. You may also be aware there are 5 congregations in the Northeast. These include Amityville, Blauvelt, Caldwell, Hope, and Spark Hill. After working for many years towards their goal, they have received canonical approval from the Vatican Dicastery for a shared governance structure called the Dominican Sisters Association. This used to be called the Dominican Sisters in Committed Collaboration, OPSCC. Their hope is that the structure will provide needed assistance in the future when one or another of the congregations can no longer provide the necessary services and leadership their congregations need. So today, Terry Ricard and Mary Hughes will be here to share some insights into their association model. I want to mention too, the rest of the DSC congregations, there are 5 in the right-hand column, and are not in any of these emerging movements or conversations. Tacoma, as I mentioned, is already in a commissary relationship with the Sisters of Providence. Saratoga only has 2 or 3 sisters remaining. Oakford, Roman, and Marinol all have international ties beyond the United States. So here's another way to look at the emerging movements of the DSC. The green is the Dominican Governance Collaborative, and the purple is the Dominican Sisters Association. In a few minutes, we will talk more about these 2 movements, but there are important terms to know before we dig into the details. So like good Dominicans, let's define a few terms that we will be using today. You may already be familiar with these, but it's a good review anyway. So what's a federation? Congregations who share the same nature and spirit join for a common purpose while each retains its autonomy. A federation needs approval from the dicastery. What's a covenant? This happens between congregations, a written promise between congregations to develop trusting relationships that provide needed services such as governance, the healthcare of members, finance, and continuing advancement of Dominican mission. There's a great example of a covenant. Recently, a number of Sinsinawa Dominicans came to live at the Racine Dominicans' mother house. They have a very specific memo of understanding or covenant relationship for care, room and board, and cost sharing for health care and living services for the sisters in their care. It's a beautiful example of covenant. So commissary, what's a commissary? Commissary, you've heard this word a lot. It's a person appointed by Rome to serve as the kind of superior general of a congregation who no longer has its own leaders available. We have an example of this in the Tacoma Dominicans, who have a Sister of Providence as their commissary. What's a union? 2 or more congregations come together both civilly and canonically to form a new entity. The congregations lose their original identity to do this, and a new name is selected. New governance and proper law is developed, and it needs approval from Rome. And of course, 2 excellent examples of a union are the Dominican Sisters of Hope and the Dominican Sisters of Peace. Here's another important distinction to keep in mind. What is an association with a capital A? An association is a group of the Christian faithful who come together to foster a more perfect life, promote public worship, engage in an apostolic mission, and the nature of each association is defined by their own statutes. It is approved by the dicastery in Rome, and that's what the Dominican Sisters Association is. And that, what I've just shared with you, is the canonical definition. So what's an association with a small a? Well, a small a association is an organized body of people who have an interest, activity, or purpose in common. And we have lots of examples of association in the DSC, the justice promoters, the communicators, the associate directors. It's an informal way of describing a group of people who hold a common collective interest. So after all that, let's take a brief moment of Zen to take in and digest what we've heard so far. So now that we have a context and some definitions, we can dive into what has been happening with these emerging movements. Keep in mind that you may notice lots of similar language and common concepts between the DGC and the DSA. So let's see what the Dominican Governance Collaborative is up to. The Dominican Governance Collaborative, the DGC, is using a working concept called Siena Federation to describe the vision it has for its 9 congregations. A word about that tree image. It's not a logo for the DGC. It's just a section marker in the presentation, a way to create some visual interest on the page, because you will be taking in a lot of words in the next few slides. Let's look at their purpose: to continue engagement and passion for mission, and to provide canonically recognized leadership from within participating congregations. What are some of the features of this proposed Siena Federation? The Federation itself, keep in mind, it needs approval from the dicastery in Rome. The congregations within it can create covenants between each one or with the Federation itself. Remember my example of the Racine and Cincinnati Dominicans. They can create a pathway for common formation for new and future members. They can provide a pathway toward union for congregations who desire it. Remember, the Hope and Peace congregations are an example of union. It can create collaborative work on justice issues. And actually, the Alliance and these congregations have all been doing justice work for a long time. So this working concept is an opportunity to get to know each other across congregations and to share experiences of study and prayer together, and also engage younger members for futuring and promoting Dominican charism. This working concept requires 5 qualified elected leaders for a 4-year term, and they still have the statutes that need to be written. So this very brief description might feel familiar or might provoke some questions in your mind, and there may be answers with our guests today. So let's talk to 2 sisters who have been deeply involved in the development of this working concept. So please welcome from the Dominican Sisters of Adrian, Corinne Sanders, and from the Dominican Sisters of Houston, Donna Pollard.
Thank you, Ann. I think one of the obvious things we've gained, of course, is at least a sketch of what we're trying to work towards in what we call the Siena Federation. And I like how you titled it a working concept, because that's exactly what it is, a working concept. I think what I'd like to start with, what we've also gained, I think, is the 9 congregations who have come together, is a much deeper appreciation of our lives in mission and those common points and the common passion to be together in mission as we go into the future. Not that we haven't been in the past, because we've been working towards this, but I think there's that has just grown and expanded, not totally just based on needs of our independent congregations, but really in looking to how do we respond to this world that we're in? How do we best bring God's much needed healing presence into a world that is yearning for love and compassion? And how do we do that together? So I think when we first started, it was to look at a governmental structure. And I think that's what we're continuing to look at. But I think the real core of what we're gaining is that being in conversation with each other, despite the challenges of distance from each other.
Yeah, very interesting. Donna, would you agree?
Sure, yes. And thanks, Ann. I think just to build on what Corinne said, I think we've, of course, gained, life's about relationship, and relationship building just continues. through this. I would say, we're all the congregations involved are looking at a time when we might not be able to have an elected leader congregationally, and we're looking toward an appointed leader or commissary. So we're looking at how can we, among ourselves, either look at, our own group of leaders that we can do this efficiently when the time comes. We don't want to be waiting for a long time before we can get someone approved. So the more we can think about this ahead of time and work together, I think that's what's been important for us to see some of the nuances. And then, of course, to find out what canonically we're able to do and perhaps maybe not able to do.
Karen, one of the things that you mentioned that the working model talks about is working on justice issues together. That sounds very exciting to me. I think we've done a lot of collaboration around justice. How do you think that might evolve?
Well, I really, I look to the covenant, first of all, the covenant relationships that can be formed as the foundation of then working towards the justice issues. I think our justice promoters have done a wonderful work across the years in their own collaboration with each other and bringing that home to us in our independent congregations. But I just think there's so much that can continue to be brought forward in that with the response to justice, because they're really that's why we're in mission together, is to respond then together for justice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
For people, for the world.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Did you encounter any particular challenges that you wanted to share with the group? What made it hard?
I think I don't know that they're big challenges. I think time is, I always, when I look at what we're doing now, time is not on our side in many ways. I think that, as Donna pointed out, we are all looking to that time when we may not be able to self-govern in our congregation. And we really need to address that time, be open and aware of that, and what are our pathways for that. So time, I don't think, is on our side. I think our demographics are also challenging. That's part of time. And then, there are the Dominican charism, we all share the Dominican charism and live that out fully. I don't know that this is a challenge. I think it's a reality. Our expression of that is sometimes different in the daily living out. We have different expressions of the charism. And so as we come to some common points, those we'll be working those out, perhaps,
Yeah.
And I just add another challenge, I think, is that in our heads, we think we know with guidance what we feel we should be able to do canonically, and that may not always be the case. Once we hear back from Rome, as we're waiting, we do have an appointment, a small subgroup of this committee where we'll be meeting with the dicastery, and we'll share that information on what they have to say about our proposal when that information becomes available.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a bit of an ongoing dialogue with the dicastery, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I do.
Because this is a working concept and it needs to be fleshed out in real life to satisfy their concerns and to meet the needs of all 9 congregations. Right. You've got a really big job.
It's, it is fun though.
You might say that.
I'm having fun. I always look to, are you enjoying yourself? And I am enjoying myself meeting with the other women. It's good.
Yes, it's been great.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a beautiful segue right into the encuentro and to this wonderful meeting we're going to have in October. We'll see you there and get to talk about it some more. So is there anything more you wanted to add or any clarity that you wanted to bring that before we close?
I think you outlined it well. No.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all we can share at this point anyway.
Sure, of course. Well, again, thank you very much for your hard work and for your willingness to take some time to talk with us today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ann. Thank you.
Thank you. See you in October.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So now let's pause for a moment of Zen. Well, I hope you found Donna and Corinne's conversations helpful and clear. We move on now to the other development that has been unfolding among the DSC congregations, and that's the Dominican Sisters Association. Remember now, though, on the East Coast, we have 5 congregations who have been working together for many years: Amityville, Blauvelt, Caldwell, Hope, and Sparkhill. Recently, they've received approval from the dicastery in Rome to form the Dominican Sisters Association. So congratulations. Let's look at some of the focus points. And again, that tree logo is not a logo, it's just a bit of visual interest on the page to keep us anchored. So first, its purpose: to provide shared canonical governance, to respect and uphold each congregation's unique identity and need, to ensure the care and well-being of our sisters and the vitality of our common mission. The association will support member congregations in planning for a future in which they may no longer have the capacity to exercise canonical governance independently, to offer a range of resources and opportunities for ongoing study, to assist each member congregation to remain viable for as long as possible, and when requested, to assume member congregations' functions of governance and civil management. Now, there are a number of features worth noting. Membership is open to all apostolic congregations of Dominican women, and member congregations remain autonomous religious institutes, retaining their own assets, liabilities, and patrimony. Membership in DSA does not change the internal life or canonical status of each congregation. And they do have statutes written and approved by Rome, and they include a description of all these parts. Okay, so you can see this is a very highly developed governance structure. And so please welcome Terry Ricard and Mary Hughes, who are members of the leadership of the Dominican Sisters Association. So they're here today, but thank you for coming to share some of their experiences of the DSA. Hi, Mary. Hi, Terry. How are you?
Hi, Ann. Great to be here with you.
Thank you for coming. We're really happy to have you here today. Appreciate your time. And I want to say congratulations on the approval of the Dominican Sisters Association. So we want to hear all about it. So if I may, just to get us started for a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, Terry, if you would start and just give us started about what did you gain from all this? What has, where are you with it? Tell us,
Sure.
Get us going here today.
Okay. Well, as you said, we're very excited about the canonical recognition of this association. I think that, this has been a process which we do well as Dominican Sisters. Over the last 6 years, starting in 2019, we worked hard to include everybody, both membership as well as leadership. I think one of the great things is people are really invested. Our members, as well as our leadership, are really invested in this association. As you probably know, in February, that would be 2025, each congregation took a vote, and it was almost unanimous. I think we're 99% of all our members, 100% of our leadership voted yes to being a part of this association. And we did not have canonical approval yet, but we decided to go ahead anyway. And we established the association, and then June, our assembly, and that was June. And then, surprise, surprise, in July, we got the official decree from the Vatican that we are a Dominican Sister Association is I'm trying to look at the words here, a public association of
the faithful
of pontifical right.
Oh, wow.
So that was July 15, 2025. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So what we've gained, I think, is a lot of energy among our members that really have wanted this to happen. Now it's here. And now we got to take this container that we've established and start to fill it with life and what's best for us for our mission, as well as the care of our sisters.
Great, thank you. Mira, you were telling me earlier about your experience of the first assembly. What happened there that you wanted to share?
Oh, there was so much that happened there. The first assembly was in June, and it was really the first time that we were all coming together after our congregational votes, after the announcement. And I have to really credit the task force that went about doing this, because periodically, when it was necessary and significant, we had opportunities to talk with one another across congregations on
Mhm.
Zoom calls. Now, I'm not a big fan of Zoom ordinarily. However, it did allow us, without leaving the comfort of our offices or rooms, to talk with one another on, and the mixture was very good. So on the day of that we came together for this assembly, there was so much excitement in the room. And as I walked around greeting people, I never heard anyone ask, now this is all in my hearing, so whether somebody else heard differently, but I never heard anyone say, where are you from? What congregation are you from? What I
Mhm.
did hear is, oh, I met you on Zoom. I met you on Zoom. But underlying that, I think, was this great feeling that together, through those Zoom things, through our conversations, we did this, we established this, and we're ready to move with it.
Mhm.
How do you see the collaboration deepening? You've been working together for a very, very long time. All 5 congregations have been back and forth across those bridges in New York.
Mm.
And I wonder, how would you imagine the collaboration going forward?
Yeah, I think that we've done a lot, as you said, together, but there's something about this that really seals it. That it's just like a nice thing to do, but that it's I think a renewed commitment. I don't know how you feel, Mary, but I think it's a renewed commitment, and it has brought our sisters a lot of hope in terms of both the present and the future.
Mhm.
That, yeah, we are really going to be one now and do what we need to do to make our mission flourish, as well as future planning. And as Mary said, we're going to do this together.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And the not only is that energy there, but I think there's the commitment that the way we used to do things worked up until a point, but now there's a different direction. I think that the way that we do things now, they have to be new. They have to be fresh. They have to be much more inclusive than the ways that we may have done them in the past without even realizing it.
Mhm.
We're all changing our thinking. Recently, I was at a congregational event and they said, oh, we should have invited the association leadership to come. And I said, we're all learning how to change our thinking
Mhm.
about who gets included on things and why,
Mhm.
and how to make this work. But I'm convinced that we have the talent among us to make that happen.
Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Are there particular challenges that you think you're going to be facing in the days to come? Is there something that's, I wouldn't say worrisome, but now that you have this established association, kind of the question is, now what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that communication was always first and foremost when I was on the task force, and our new leadership team for the association is committed to that. Every time we meet, we're sending out some kind of written communication. We have plans to do videos, kind of like the Sisters of Peace do, and and again, communicating with both membership and leadership. We want to keep it's just was like Mary said, just so much energy and hope in that room. And we want to keep that going. So now it can't be just like, okay, now we got the approval. We have this. The next thing we'll do is civil approval, but that's not a big deal. We got to make something happen. That's, I think, and the challenge is different than what we've done in our collaboration previously to this. This has to be different. So I think that's our new leadership team. That's our challenge.
Yes. What's going through my mind is that phrase that has been floating around for a long time that says, what can we do better together that we can?
That's
Yeah,
right.
we got to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is, even at the end of that day, we all went home.
Yes.
To our specific homes. And there's a way that we get kind of, I don't know, lulled into all the patterns that we've lived for so long. So one of our challenges is not as we talk and plan, and we we've been good with each other as a planning, as a team, to not miss the opportunities to bring people together, to communicate the excitement, and to let them know that we can accomplish things differently now because we are together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and I think, Richard, I mean, this is about shared governance, right? But shared governance is both about helping the mission to flourish, right? It's our responsibility as leaders, but also in terms of the care of our sisters. So again, we want to do that better with the 5 congregations. So yes, I mean, we originally did this. A priority was that we could be commissaries for each other as time goes on, and that will continue. But we don't see that as our only, we're about future planning and doing that together, helping the leaders of the 5 congregations to do that.
Yeah.
And also that eventually, when people need that we'll be ready. So that's what we have to do now. Make sure that we fill in all the space now in a creative way so that we can help each other live life, Dominican life to the full.
Yes, and I think the fact that you've been working together for so long gives you a familiarity with each other's strengths and weaknesses, really. I mean, there are in terms of your capacity to take care of your retired sisters or handle different parts of governance or parts of operations in a congregation that you know each other in a way that it's almost second nature to say, I'll be there for you. One congregation to another, even not just in terms of the whole of all 5, but I would imagine that you're thinking about ways in which one congregation could come to the service of another congregation in some way.
Yeah. And whatever we do, whatever decisions or initiatives we might have, it has to be the underlying question: how are we building trust and relationships as this goes forward? Because in order to be able to accept the bigger things that lie ahead for all of us, we want that trust and excitement to be there, that this isn't a bad thing, this is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. And isn't relationship what it's all about?
And I want to say something, that this isn't just, we didn't create this just for the 5 congregations, that we're open. So maybe that we're open. Part of our statutes that any Dominican congregation could join us.
Yes,
so
I noticed that.
We want it to be broader than that, and that all are welcome. To consider it.
And it's all about relationship.
Yeah.
Any other final thought? Okay, well, thank you. I know this is a short little visit, but it puts a little flesh on some real live people into the mix of these structures that we're talking about. So I really appreciate your time today. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the DSA. So thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
I'll see you in October at the Encuentro.
Yes, you'll see us.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you both
Thank
very,
you.
very much. So let's give ourselves a little time to process with a moment of Zen. Well, welcome back, everybody. For our final section of material today, I invited Lisa Kane to join us. Lisa is a Dominican sister of Racine, and she is the DSC Associate Director for Futuring. She works very closely with the Futuring leadership team, and Lisa will introduce you to them. She also works with the other Dominican sisters who are in the under 70 cohort, and a good number of sisters in the cohort will be there at the October Encuentro. So welcome, Lisa. Glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Ann. I appreciate the invitation.
How are you?
I'm doing okay, and I hope you are too.
I'm doing great. So thanks for being with us today. Give us a sense of what's going on with the under 70 cohort.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. Hold on one second and let me start my PowerPoint so you can see some of the neat things we've been doing. So in the last few months, we created a new logo for the DSC Futuring Cohort. And I know that we've published in it Dom Life and got the word out in many ways, but I like showing off our new logo, and I'm grateful to Natasha who created it for us. I think that it speaks to the movement from past to future, and with that same spark of what's possible. So
Looks beautiful. I like it a lot.
I'm glad. So this is the current DSC Futuring Leadership Team. We have Lorraine Rayoun from Adrian. We have Annie Killian from Peace. We have Lystra Long from Sinsinawa, Pat McGee from the Dominican Sisters of Hope, Kathy Buchanan from Peace, and myself. Lorraine and Pat are both from the original FLT that started back in 2021, and they're working on their second 3-year term. And the other three joined the team in October of 2023. So Annie, Lystra, and Kathy are the newest members on the team. We are blessed to have many talented women in the cohort taking leadership roles and offering their time and skills to the ministry on behalf of the 236 DSC sisters under 70. In addition to the FLT, we have subgroups that we call working groups, which are peer-led and supported by a liaison or sometimes two from the FLT. Our working groups at this time are the Future Pathways Working Group, which is currently on idle, the 21st Century Dominican Spirituality and Theology Working Group, the Vocation Collaboration Working Group, Bridging Polarities, Journeying Toward Interculturality, and our newest subgroup is the cohort under 60. So, as I mentioned, the Future Pathways Working Group is kind of in an idle mode. They may resume following Encuentro. Most of their work was done last year when they surveyed the cohort and then presented results of our cohort process to the DSC elected leaders in October of 2024. So it's possible that this group will resume after the DSC Encuentro gathering, depending on what develops there at the gathering. Another group that's been doing something new is the Dominican Spirituality and Theology Working Group. And they've developed the Spiral of Transformation. This group reflected on a communal and intercultural exploration of the Dominican Order's preaching charism, proposing a new vision centered on a spiral of transformation that integrates encounter, suffering, contemplation, and preaching. They began by reevaluating the traditional pillars, acknowledging their value, and noting that they originated from a male perspective in the order. They sought to identify elements more aligned with their lived experience as women preachers. From their experience, they identified these 4 as key aspects. These are not static, but part of a dynamic, evolving spiral rather than a fixed structure. The spiral represents a continuous, fluid movement of transformation. Encounter is often the starting point, but there's no rigid sequence. This model emphasizes vulnerability, especially in suffering, and hope found in contemplation. This was inspired by Dominic's own transformation through encounter, and the group encourages the resignification of Dominican life today. This includes responding deeply to the cries of suffering humanity and the earth, listening and preaching in alignment with present realities. So this group offered the Spiral of Transformation in a cohort session where we gathered as many of the members of the cohort to hear presentation of the model and then apply it to different life stories of members of this group. It was a very inspirational presentation. Then we have the Dominican Vocations Collaboration Working Group. Now, this one's special because it includes the vocation staff from all DSC congregations, so it's not limited just to the cohort members. In June, they held their first collaborative service immersion experience in Chicago. Vocation personnel from 6 congregations gathered in Westchester, just outside Chicago, to spend a week with 8 young women who are actively discerning religious life. In prayer, study, community, and ministry, these women experienced Dominican life. And preparations have already begun on a similar experience for 2026. In another big undertaking, which has been very well received, we have our Bridging Polarities Working Group, joined by the Journeying Toward Interculturality Working Group, in offering a course in Restorative Circles training. To begin, the Journeying Towards Interculturality Working Group was formed after a powerful breakout session during the Under 70 gathering in the summer of 23. It was realized that the pain and hurt, as well as conflicts experienced by many members of this group, originated from the lack of listening deeply to each other within our congregations. This hope is to heal relationships, expand the experiences and respect in this group for each other, and to live this out authentically within the cohort and between and within our congregations. It was also realized through a couple people in this group that assisting with this workshop on restorative dialogue, it was also recognized by a couple people in this group that assisting the Bridging Polarities group with planning the workshop on restorative dialogue to integrate intercultural understanding among the cohort might be helpful. Some sisters mentioned the significance of this workshop at this time, in which we are taking a synodal path as a church. 25 cohort sisters are presently engaged in the restorative dialogue training being facilitated by Duke Duscher. The restorative dialogue process is a program that comes out of the Center for Nonviolent Communication, and Duke is a trained facilitator in this and does many international projects helping people work toward peaceful integration of their issues. Building intercultural understanding and reconciliation among themselves as a cohort and within our congregations are of vital importance to the folks who are participating in this. And we are currently working on putting together a waiting list for the next round of this course. And the newest group that we've begun gathering is the DSC sisters under 60. So we're focusing on sisters from those congregations, which are part of the collaborative governance efforts that are in process. So the congregations with the DSA and the DGC. And we're focusing on those sisters under 60 that are from the United States, Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, which is about 36 sisters. And we'll share what we're doing with the other sisters who are under age 60, especially the groups in the Philippines and Mexico. And hopefully they'll be able to find ways to adapt this process to their context. One way that we're approaching this is to kind of approach it from the mindset, we're a small cohort that's going to make up the one Dominican congregation from the DSC congregations that will be going together into the future. That's who we have. And what do you need, speaking to them, what do you need in order to be prepared for that shift? So that group just recently met for the first time, and they do want to keep meeting. So it's a little premature to say more of what came out of that conversation. To tell you a little bit more of some of what we've been doing since last year, we've had 4 quarterly cohort gatherings. In February, we had requests for a presentation on grief and hope. So I invited Mercedes McCann from the St. John Vianney Center to do a presentation for us. In May, our Spirituality and Theology Working Group presented the Spiral of Transformation. In August, we had panel presentations from cohort members who attended the DSIC, Dominican Sisters International Confederation, and Hope 2025, which was organized by the Leadership Collaborative. Those were both international religious life gatherings that occurred in Rome this summer. And those were very well attended panel presentations, great discussions. And then in November, we will be processing the cohort experience of the DSC 2025 Encuentro that's happening in St. Louis in October. So that's what we're doing for our quarterly gatherings. And that sums up what's happening with them. I really want to thank you, Anne, for having this opportunity. And I want to thank the leaders that were part of pulling together this whole concept of having a Futuring leadership team and bringing the cohort members together.
Well, thank you, Lisa. This was really very interesting. I'm very struck by a number of the things that you shared with us, especially in terms of having opportunities for the working groups to get to know each other and to really build relationships together. That's been, to me, a central defining characteristic of the FLT project altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we're a very diverse group.
Yes.
We are a very diverse group.
That's great. The other thing I was struck by was the under 60 group.
Yes.
That's to me, it's an important distinction to make. And there was such a courageous question to ask, or not question, but a very courageous framework to be able to say that this group under 60 could be the legacy congregation, if you will, from all of us who are members of the DSC, because this group have the most stake in this whole process. Yeah, the rest of us, I think, are really more about support and opportunities to engage. I certainly hope that the Futuring leadership team themselves will help keep us all in touch with what's happening, because I'm very curious, and if I am, I'm sure a lot of other sisters are very curious about what's going on for the Futuring cohort. So thank you for your leadership, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. I appreciate your preparation and your sharing.
I'm grateful for the invitation, and I look forward to seeing you at the Encuentro in October.
Yes, I'll see you at Encuentro in October.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Well, we've been taking in a lot of data and information, so let's pause for a moment of Zen. Well, finally, and very briefly, let me say a few words about recent developments in the Collaborative Dominican Novitiate, the CDN. Although the CDN is not technically dealing with a governance structure per se, it's a very significant element for all of us who share Dominican life and mission. And some important changes are in process with it. So the CDN still exists for us, though we do not have a designated house for canonical novices, nor have we named directors for the canonical novitiate stage of formation. The CDN is still listed in the official Catholic directory as a legal entity, and the board will meet in October at Encuentro, along with the congregational formation representatives, the CFRs, who will also be in attendance. At that time, a proposal will be discussed about how to move forward with greater collaborative formation at all stages of the formation process. So please stay tuned. So now that you've had a sense of the big picture, I hope your understanding of the movement of DSC congregations is clearer, and perhaps you can more deeply appreciate your own congregation's place in all these discussions. And at the very least, you can appreciate the complexity of the questions we are facing and the need to keep our leaders and their work in our prayers. I'd like to offer a few thoughts. These new and evolving governance structures are happening in part because we've reached the point where our leadership pool is more and more limited. And for some congregations, they are reaching the end of their leadership capacity very soon. And we asked at the beginning of the presentation, what happens when we don't have the leaders we need for our own congregations? And the irony of the question is that our answers include generating a new level of leadership in either a federation or an association model. It does seem a bit ironic to me that we answer the question about scarcity with the very scarcity we are trying to address. The challenge is to look for the abundance in the midst of that scarcity. I noticed the creativity and openness in the covenant that was formed between Racine and Sinsinawa. We Dominicans come through for each other, and our common commitment to a vibrant future for Dominican life and mission is so evident. So I wonder where other covenants might be formed as a way to address our scarcity. Both federation and association seem to hold some answers there. If we were to describe our times as a time of scarcity and stress, we certainly would be right. Can we embrace this time as a time to pay attention, to be on the lookout for grace, to keep our eyes open to possibilities? Ask the question, what if? What if? I think our friends who study our planet can testify that nature will find a way. And sometimes it is simple and elegant and right before our eyes. Remember the text in Jeremiah? I know the plans I have for you, to give you a future full of hope. What I shared with you last year still holds true. We have arrived at this moment on the shoulders of courageous women who sought to bear witness to the gospel, who took wise steps forward as the world's needs became clear and as our own needs became evident. Their response was courageous. Our call is to that same courage. The question is being asked of us. What is the new and deeper communion that God is creating and calling us to that will result in a flourishing Dominican life and mission? Change comes because we listen to the Spirit's promptings. We pay attention to our present realities and have the courage to listen and act out of that conviction that God works through our choices. God is working in the choices we are making, so we can be encouraged by the abundance of creativity and collaboration that is happening among us already. We hope that this was a worthwhile use of your time in preparation for the encuentro, and ask your prayers for that meeting. That gathering is so critical for our future as we come together. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time. See you in October, where we celebrate the 90th anniversary of the Dominican Sisters Conference. Thank you.